Good afternoon, Miss and everyone. Today, our group representate about the innovation of airplane. Before we start our presentation, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Ricky Kurniawan, and here are my two friends, Stephen Wijaya and Richard Faumasi Arthur. Without further ado, let us start the presentation. So, what is airplane? You know, something that has wings, but it's not a bird. It's airplane, also called aircraft or plane, any of class of fixed-wing aircraft that is heavier than air. It is a vehicle designed for air travel, propelled by a screw propeller or a high-velocity jet, and supported by the dynamic reaction of the air against its wings that enable it to fly through the air. And then we're moving on to the history of airplane. So, how it all started? The dream of human flight must have begun with observation of birds soaring to the sky for millennia. However, progress was retarded by attempts to design aircraft that emulated the beating of a bird's wings. Thus, the story of invention of the airplane begins in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries with the first serious research into aerodynamics, the study of force operating on a solid body. Leonardo da Vinci, an inventor from Italy, had contributed to an understanding of the relationship between resistance and such factors as the surface area of an object exposed to the stream and the density of the fluid. After then, in 1799, Sir George Cayley defined the force of lift and drag, presented the first scientific design for a fixed-wing aircraft. Building on his pioneering works in aeronautics, scientists and engineers began designing and testing airplanes. A young boy made the first manned flight in a glider designed by Cayley in 1849. After then, in 1894, Sir Otto Lilienthal made the first controlled flight, shifting his body weight to steer a small glider. And then, how it was invented? So, Orville and Wilbur Wright were the inventors of the first airplane. On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers launched the era of human flight when they successfully tested a flying vehicle that took off by its own power, flew naturally at even speeds, and descended without any damage. They were inspired by Lilienthal's success and experimented with various aerodynamic surfaces to maneuver an aircraft in flight. The Wright brothers spent a great deal of time observing birds in flight. They noticed that birds soared into the wind and their air flowing over the curved surface of their wings created lift. They believed that they could use this technique to obtain roll control by warping or changing the shape of portion of the wing. On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers performed the first controlled, sustained powered flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Almost 2 years later, their work was considered a practical flying machine, and other engineers soon studied their invention to achieve their success. Once the benefits and capabilities of aircraft become widely known, they were soon converted into floatplanes, flying boats, passenger aircraft, and observation platforms that featured radios, wireless telegraphs, fights, and bombers. With World War I on the horizon, airplanes soon become an important part of war and peace.
Okay, after hearing what is an airplane and the history of an airplane, now we will move into the most important thing of an airplane. Yes, it is called the part of airplanes. And the part of airplane, each of them have their own specific purpose. Now we start from the first one. The first one is called the fuselage. The plane's body or fuselage hold the aircraft together with the pilot sitting at the front of the fuselage and the passenger or cargo in the back of the airplane. The second part is called the cockpit. The cockpit is the area at the front of the fuselage from which the pilot operates the plane. And the cockpit is divided into five parts. The first one is called the instrument panel. This is similar to a car dashboard, providing the pilot with information about the flight the engine, and the circumstance of the aircraft. The second one is called the flight control and pilot seat. In the cockpit, there are two seats. One is for the pilot and the other one is for the co-pilot. The third part is called the rudder pedals. The rudder pedals control yaw in flight and are used for steering on the ground during a taxi. And for the fourth one, it is called the overhead panels. The overhead panels contains aircraft systems such as air conditioner, electrical fuels, and hydraulics. And for the last part, it is called the side console. The side console are for communication, instrument, and documentation. And the side console only have in a few airplanes because not airplane have the side console. And we will move to the third part of an airplane. It is called the wings. An aircraft wings are critical to flight through the production of lift, but they have many parts of the wing to control this lift amount and direction. And there is two parts of wings. The first one is called the ailerons. Ailerons are one of the three primary control surfaces that control a plane and are located on the trailing edge of the wing to help control the roll of a plane. And the second part is called the flaps. Flaps, it's like ailerons, so it's located on the trailing edge of the wings. Unlike ailerons, the flaps move symmetrically on each side and create more lift and drag. And the fourth part of an airplane it is called the tail. An aircraft tail is mainly used for stability, as well as creating lift in combining with the wings. And the tails is divided into two types. The first type is called the horizontal stabilizer and elevator. The horizontal stabilizer keeps the airplane nose from moving up and down, and the vertical stabilizer and rudder. The, the vertical stabilizer allows the airplane to weather plane into the relative wind. And the fifth part of an airplane is called the engines. The engines or the power plant, it is used for airplane to work or to fly. Now we'll move to the sixth one. It is called the propeller. An aircraft propeller or are airfoils similar to a wing installed vertically to create thrust to drive the plane forward. Attached to the engine, they spin quickly, creating lift from the pressure difference they create only instead of this lift causing the plane to move upwards. It drives the plane forward, creating thrust. And for the last part of an airplane, it is called the landing gear. The landing gear is located under the belly of the plane, consisting of a wheel and struts to soften impact with the ground and may be retractable into the fuselage. And there is one type, and it is called the three cycle. The three cycle, I think you all already know. Commonly, people already know. It is a type where the wheel there is one wheel in the front of the airplane and the two wheels in the back of the airplane. So, if you want to become a pilot, you have to have a huge responsibility because if you just do a little mistake, you can make your passengers really dangerous or maybe can die. And I think the other most important things is you always have to check your airplane condition so the passenger or the pilot can have their own safety flight or journey. And I think that's for the parts of the airplane.
After hearing the parts of the planes, now I will tell you how does airplane fly. Airplanes fly when the movement of air across their wings creates an upward force on the wing and thus the rest of the plane that is greater than the force of gravity pulling the plane toward the earth. The physics behind this phenomenon was first described by Daniel Bernoulli, an 18th century Swiss mathematician and scientist who studied the movement of fluids. Bernoulli discovered that the pressure exerted by a moving fluid is inversely proportional to the speed of the fluid. In other words, the fluid pressure decreases as the fluid speed increases, and vice versa. The same principle applies to moving air. The faster that the air moves through the space, the lower the air pressure, the slower it moves, and the higher the pressure. Aircraft wings are designed to take advantage of that fact that and create the lift force necessary to overcome the weight of the aircraft and get airplanes off the ground. The underside of wings are more or less or flat, Their tops are curved. In addition, wings are slanted slightly downward from front to back. So air moving around a wing has longer way to travel over over the top than it does underneath. The air going over the top moves faster than the air going underneath, and the air pressure above the wing thus is lower than is under the wing, where slower moving air molecules bunch together. The pressure difference creates lift, and the faster the wing moves through the air, the greater the lift becomes, eventually overcoming the force of gravity upon the aircraft. For the last part is advantages and disadvantages of flying. Whether you like flying or not, when it comes to the pros and cons of flying with airplanes, there are plenty of both. On the one hand, air travels is the quickest way to get from point A to point B. But on the other hand, flying can be expensive, stressful, and detrimental to environment. For the advantages is the first one is speed, comfort, efficiency is one of the key advantages of air transport is that planes are designed to get you from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as possible. They can cover large distance in a relative short amount of time. Even when you factor in the time it takes to get to from the airport. Flying is often as quick but usually quicker as other forms of travel, including the speed of high-speed trains. The next one is relaxation, safety, convenience, and the last part is accessibility. With more people flying than before ever, there are no more options to fly to unique and hard to reach destination. You can fly anywhere in the world, and there are usually multiple flights options to choose. But the advantages is the cost, time commitment, hassle, inconvenience. The jet lag is really a problem for many people for who fly frequently. It's disruptions of your body natural sleep cycle, and it can be difficult to adjust to a new time zone. If you are air travel involved a long journey, you're likely experience some jet lag. The last but not least is the environment impact. It's fair to say that plane is not good for environment. According to the European Union's Transport and Environment Department, the combination of CO2 emissions, other gases, and vapor trails make flying responsible for 5% of global warming. Thank you for listening. Our apologies if there are any mistaken. Thank you.